you know, it's whatever. Feeling good, living better.
You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily fantasy basketball podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball podcast brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd and I am the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Twitter as always at redrock_Bieber. We're going to be looking back at a pretty busy Wednesday night in the NBA, 12 games there, then looking at some stream options for Thursday when there are only 3 games on. Michael Bolton.
Let's get to it.
Let's get to it indeed. We will start where we always do on these shows.
Monstrous Line of the Night.
Yes, the monstrous line of the night is Andre Drummond of the Detroit Pistons. With Blake Griffin out again, Drummond did his best, 43 minutes, 28 and 19 with 3 assists, 3 steals and 3 blocks on 69% shooting.
Giggity!
Unfortunately, he was a 6 of 11 from the free throw line. Drummond is the 21st ranked player over the course of this season, the 8th ranked player over the last 2 months, so basically post All-Star break. And if you're talking about a guy, if you're punting that free throw percentage category, then he is probably in the top 6 or top 5. That's how good he's been over that stretch, averaging 19 and 17 with 2 steals, almost 2 blocks on 57% shooting. He was the 19th best player last year, 21st this season. A little bit different distribution in his stats. A bit of a drop in free throw percentage, an increase in steals. He's scoring more this year, but his assists have dropped. It's still hovering in that number. But these last 2 months have been unbelievable from Drummond. And again, if you're in that punt free, and he's improved his free throws, no doubt, but he's still a punt free throw guy. And if you punt that category, then you're talking about a really upper echelon category fantasy basketball player, Andre Drummond, putting up really strong numbers and gets maybe his first monstrous line of the night. That's how weird it's been, but that's how good he has, or he's been that good without getting stellar individual performances. So massive game from Drummo to get the monstrous line of the night.
Waiver wire line of the night.
The waiver wire line of the night is Mario Hezonja. It's a me of the New York Knicks. David Fizdale decided to insert him into the starting lineup to face his former team. Forget the fact that they've played the Orlando Magic 3 times already this year, and Hezonja was a DNP in 2 of those. Fizdale decided it was a great idea to start him, and it's so frustrating. I talked about this the other day about the stability of these guys who start and then go to DNP CDs. Hezonja did that. Start, DNP, DNP, D. Try again. Start, DNP, DNP, and then another start. He was great, 29, 9, and 5 with 2 steals, but he's not playing his former team next game, so it's really hard to understand exactly what's going to happen with him. Is he worth a flyer in a 16-team league? Sure, but he could literally play 0 minutes for the rest of the season. There is no way of us knowing this. I like Hezonja. I think he can be a solid enough player. I think he should have been a good player on this team this year, and over the last month, in the games he's played, he's a top 100 guy. So only played 7 games because he's been in and out of the lineup, but 14, 5, and 3 with a steal on 43 and 96 with a 1 triple per game. He should have been starting every single game for this team. He's not old. He's 24. He's still got the best years of his career ahead of him. I just don't understand the process of Fizdale. How many times have I said that this season? But Hezonja, he's done well when he's been in there. The problem is he just hasn't been in there enough, and that's the real concern here. We just don't know which direction this is going to go moving forward. The deep leaguer of the night is Evan Turner of the Portland Trail Blazers. His second consecutive triple-double, 28 minutes in the Blazers' big win, 13, 12, and 11 on 6 of 7 shooting. That obviously helps to get that level of production. Now, rostered in 3% of Yahoo leagues, you want to add him in all 16s, maybe even 14-teamers, especially if you're looking for some assists. But he plays on all the high-volume days. 4 games left still. No doubt that's useful. But Friday, Sunday, Tuesday, Wednesday, if you're in a 12 or in a 14-team league, does he fall into your best 10 players? The answer is probably going to be no. But also, at this point of the season, it's not just about who is your best player. If you need assists, you might get, and it's unrealistic to expect double-digit assists every game, but you might get 20 assists, 24 assists over these next 4 games. And that might be useful enough to push him into your best 10 players. So definitely someone to look at. Now, when CJ McCollum returns, it's going to be a lot harder for Turner to get these minutes. He played 28 today, 25 the game before for these almost identical stat lines. To be fair, he's gone 11 of 12 from the field, which is obviously not going to continue, and maybe that's pushed his playing time up, but he is at least a deeper league a deeper league guy to pay some attention to because of that ability to get assists.
Young Gun of the Night.
The young gun of the night is Trey Young. Don't think too many people would debate this one. Trey has been unbelievable of late. Another big performance here. 33 minutes for 33 points, 7 rebounds, 12 assists on 12 of 18 shooting from Trey Young. He is the 60th ranked player over the course of the season, 25th post All-Star break. 23 points, 9 assists, a steal per game. Great free throw rate, great free throw percentage. He is going to be a third-round player next season. I've got almost no doubt about that. Where does he improve? He's in a little bit of Devin Booker range at the moment. Those steals is what needs to push him into that top 15, top 12. If he can get to 1.2, 1.4 steals, he really pushes up, and he needs to get the field goals up from 42 to 45. And he can do all of that. He's still only hitting 1.9 threes per game over the course of the season. He should be a 3 threes per game guy, and I think that is where there is still significant upside in what Trey Young can do for the rest of his career and over the next 2 to 3 years. That he might be a little bit risky next year, and you're going to be drafting him in that third round, maybe at the peak of his value, but I still think he can push into the second round. But you're not going to have the same level of value that you had with him this season, no doubt about that being a massive. And he was getting dropped all over the place in November. Hopefully you grabbed him in those situations because it has paid off, and it has paid off in a huge, huge way. The dud of the night is Paul Millsap of the Denver Nuggets. A terrible performance from Millsap. The team played well. They smashed the Spurs, but 3 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists in 21 minutes for Millsap. 1 of 4 shooting. He has been really poor of late. 164th over the last 2 weeks. You can't really wait for him to get better, to turn it around. I'd be more than happy to move on from Millsap. He plays on all the high volume days as well, so nothing massive to see there in terms of value on stream days. He just isn't getting enough minutes. The Nuggets are limiting what he's doing. He's also struggling with his shot in most situations, and that's having pretty significant impact on what he's doing. So I think that you should be looking at Millsap as a drop pretty much across the board for 12-team leagues. And your 14-team leagues, maybe his spot is more valuable as a stream situation. The plus-minus goats of the day, Dwight Powell was a plus 96.3, while Marco Bellinelli was a negative 123 as the Spurs got smacked by those same Denver Nuggets. And some injury news, Jabari Parker left today's game with a knee injury. I'm not sure we're going to see him again this season. They said it's not serious and he's day-to-day, but no point risking it with him. Joshy Richardson, I reckon, is going to miss the next couple. He came back today and got hurt after about 16 minutes. That's a worry. That boosts the value of Dion Waiters and Goran Dragic, though, so they can become 12-team stream options. James Ennis with his quad, I would assume, misses some time. Johnny Simmons, TJ McConnell can get some value there. While ravishing Rick Rubio was a late scratch for the Jazz, along with Jay Crowder and Derek Favors and Kyle Korver, who were out. Whenever Rubio is out, it boosts Donovan Mitchell's value, it boosts Royce O'Neal's value, it boosts Hal Neto's value as well. While Devin Booker, I'm pretty sure his season is done. Pretty significant looking ankle sprain. He's going to have an MRI on Thursday. That boosts the value of Joshy Jackson as a must-add 12-team league player. Troy Daniels becomes a 16-teamer. Jimmy Fredette becomes a 20-team league guy. I think not Miles. That's the first time I reckon I've mucked them up all year. McCall Bridges becomes a pretty solid 12-team league guy, while Alia Kobo and DeAnthony Melton are that 16 to 18-team league range with Booker. So I do think that is probably going to be the end of him for the rest of this season. All right, the first game we take a look at, the Indiana Pacers beat the Detroit Pistons. A pretty disappointing effort from the Pistons to lose by as much as they did, with the Pacers starting backcourt being out and the Pistons being at home, 108-89. There was no Wes Matthews and Darren Collison, as I mentioned, so Corey Joseph was an interesting assist stream guy. He added 12 of those. He had 6 rebounds with 6 points, while Tyreek Evans couldn't have been more of a disaster. 6 points on 1 of 13 shooting. Just the 1 assist, a steal and a block. Of course, when Collison and Matthews return, Evans' value does disappear quite quickly. But if you streamed him in for today, you'd be obviously really disappointed. Thad Young was great, 21-8 with 2 steals. Sabonis had 15-13, while Miles Turner, only 25 minutes for Turner. Some foul trouble plagued him. 17-15. For the Pistons, Blake Griffin was out again. This knee must really be an issue. Drummond was fantastic, 28-19, 3 steals and 3 blocks on 69% shooting.
Giggity!
Of course, he did have an impact on your free throws, while the Duke, Wayne Ellington, continues to put up big numbers. Another 24 points, 5 triples. As long as Griffin's out, he's providing an interesting points streamer, a 3-point option always. He's always going to be that guy who's in that 3 to 3.2 triples per game, but he's adding more minutes and usage at the moment, really putting up the numbers, while Thon McCare really disappointed. He added a block Thon in a start for Blake, but not much else there. Didn't hit any threes, missed all 4 of his shots, while Reggie Jackson, 16, 5, and 4. Pretty good from Reg in those just 23 minutes, though. Some foul trouble limited his overall playing time. The next game up for us to look at was the New York Knicks and the Orlando Magic. Of course, Fizdale is one of those coaches who puts guys in for big minutes against their former team. The last guy who did that was Jay Triano. We know how good of a head coach he was. So Mario Hezonja went from starting 2 games to being a DMP CD for 2 games to back into the starting lineup, where he played 34 minutes against his former team. Now, this wasn't the first opportunity that Hezonja's had to play the Magic. They have played the Magic 4 times already this season. Hezonja had, I think, 12 points in the first outing and was a DNP in the next 2 outings against Orlando. But in this one, he went off 29, 9, and 5 with 2 steals. I thought at the start of the season that Hezonja would be the starting small forward on this team because he was the best small forward on this team. Him and Kevin Knox should have manned the 3 and 4, but of course Fizdale, in all his wisdom and knowledge, didn't allow that to happen. I don't know what's going to happen next game because literally Hezonja didn't play a single second before this one. This was strong, but Cornette could go back to start next game. I honestly have no idea. And just I think yesterday or the day before, I talked about Cornette and how maybe it looks like he's solidified in this starting role because every other time he started, he'd play 2 or 3 games and he goes back to the bench, then he goes out of the rotation, and then the exact same thing has happened here. Just the 14 minutes for the Cornetto, 6 points, and it really is a disturbingly inconsistent pattern. 34 minutes for the Fort. He had 21 points. Kevin Knox, 2 steals and a block with 4 rebounds. That's strong, but we know that's not reliable. While Mitchie Robinson, turns out he can play minutes. 34 of them here, 12 and 9 with 3 steals and 2 blocks. Everybody knows he is a must-roster player. Not much else happening except there is a bloke called Billy Garrett that plays on this Knicks team. For the Magic, a big win for them. They move into the playoff picture with the Heat losing today. Terrence Ross was great, 23 points, 5 assists and 5 threes. He's a great stream option. These Magic players are going to be playing their solid roles pretty much every night. Vucevic had 29 and 13. Asa Gordon had 19, 7 and 6, and Fournier chimed in with 19 points. But Johnny Isaac, a weird game from Isaac, 28% usage, 16 shot attempts, hit just 3 of them, but had 9 rebounds and 2 blocks. So you hated that he was so inefficient, but it could have been a really, really big night. At this point, he is just a stream guy. While Michael Carter-Williams has been signed for the rest of the season for this Magic team, for deeper leagues, he has immense value. 4 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 steal and 2 blocks. That's providing even, say, 14-team stream value for those across the board, low volume stats, steals, blocks, rebounds, assists, those sort of numbers. Carter Williams can provide that for you. Well, DJ Augustin struggled offensively, just the 5 points, but 31 minutes is encouraging. He played alongside Carter Williams as well. 8 assists is also pretty good from big old Deej. The Chicago Bulls and the Washington Wizards. The Bulls pull it out 115-114. Walt Lemon, 29 minutes for Lemon, 24 points, 8 assists and 2 steals. He had 69% shooting
Giggity.
as well. The first game he played big minutes, great. The next game, shithouse. This game, pretty strong. It looks like he's going to get solid minutes the rest of the way, so he is at least a 14-team league stream, while Jakar Sampson has played almost 30 minutes in both of his Bulls games, 18 and 9 with 2 steals and 2 triples for Jakar. He can also be a 14-team league guy. The Bulls are really dicking Ryan Archer-Jacquino, only 19 minutes. The reason they have reduced his playing time is so that they can lower his minutes limits in terms of restricted free agency and qualifying offers and bonuses and that sort of stuff, which is a real dick move, but that's why his playing time has come down. While Big Shaq Harrison,
Big Shaq,
34 minutes, 15 and 4, 2 steals and 2 blocks, pretty close to a must-roster player at this point. Timothé Luwawu-Cabarrot and Wayne Selden started. Now, Selden only played 16 minutes due to foul trouble. That could have contributed to some of those extra minutes to Rawley Alkins, who played 26 minutes. Selden is interesting enough as a points type of streamer. For the Wizards, Tommy Bryant, 39 minutes, 20 and 12 with 2 blocks. I think we should feel confident that he should be the starter in Washington next season, but of course, Scott Brooks had the first 6 months of this season to actually give him these minutes, but refused to, would play him only 20 minutes a night, but now we're seeing what he can do. Punch Bob was pretty good, but only 24 minutes, 20 and 10 with 2 steals and 2 blocks. When you're getting a combined 4 steals and blocks out of Bobby Portis, you know it's a rare occurrence. Brad Beal, now he's going to play every game for the rest of the season, but only 22 minutes here. That could really be what happens with Bielo the rest of the time. 19 and 4 with 2 blocks. And his production's fine, but he was getting 36, 37 minutes a night and really putting up big numbers, and it appears that may end. Same with Tomas Satoransky, who played only 25 minutes here. You'd think that his minutes could be on the decline. Now, this game was close down the end, and Beal and Satoransky weren't even playing in it. Jabari Parker hurt his knee early. It's not considered serious. He's day-to-day, but with a guy that's had 2 ACL tears, you probably want to take it cautious with him. He only played 11 minutes. He was bad before that, 0 of 5 from the field for Jabari, but he might return, he may not, but he's not a guy that's an absolute must-hold player while we wait to hear his status. Sammy Decker would be an interesting pickup. I don't think we're seeing Jeff Green again. 14 points for Slam and Sammy, while Troy Brown started for Trevor Ariza again. 6 points. He is just a deeper league player. That is it. Next up, the Celtics beat the Heat. Gordon Hayward looked really good in this one, 25, 8 and 5. We've seen a few flashes from Hayward this season, and he hasn't failed to, or he's failed to live up to them in the coming games. It also is worth noting that Marcus Morris and Jaylen Brown were both out here, so I wouldn't be rushing to add Gordo, but he looked really good. The Horford and Baines starting combination, I think, is here to stay. 21 and 8 for Horf. He's going to have a rest day coming up soon, while Aaron Baines 10 and 10 with 2 blocks. That's enough for, say, 16 teamers to really pay some attention. Marcus Smart did what he does. 4 assists and 4 steals, has been under-rostered all season, while Tatum 16, 7 and 3 on some pretty poor shooting, but added a 1-1. Those other counting stats are fairly nice. For the Heat, we had Justice Winslow and Joshie Richardson return. Richardson only lasted the 16 minutes. I feel like he's a drop at this point, while Winslow only 23 minutes, 4 points. Hard to consider holding him in 12. So Goran Dragic, 37 minutes, 11, 2 and 5. I said that his production is as inconsistent as almost anybody in the NBA, and this is a really good illustration. 11 points on 3 of 15 shooting, doesn't get it done. Dwayne Wade, he is consistent. I like him for 12, 17, 7 and 6, while Whiteside really got the business done. 18 and 15 in 21 minutes on 82% shooting, but of course, his production is not reliable enough. Dion Waiters also hurt himself early in the game, but returned. 21 points, 5 triples and 5 assists for Waiters. And you'd have to think with Richardson likely to miss more time, Derek Jones out, that Waiters is going to be at least a points streamer for 12-team leagues, if nothing else. Bam Bam Adebayo was also pretty good.
Bam Bam! Bam Bam!
12 and 12 for Bam Bam with 4 assists, a steal, and 2 blocks. I'm really interested to see what happens with him next season. The next game, the Toronto Raptors, they beat the Brooklyn Nets 115-105. Serge Ibaka in only 24 minutes went off, 23 and 12 with 5 triples. Now, he had almost eliminated 3-pointers out of his game this year, so to see him come in and hit 5 of them here is definitely a shock, and also to have a 30% usage, while Marcus Sol had 8, 9 and 6 with 4 steals in his 27 minutes. Good lines from both of those players, but we do have to remember that centers get a significant boost when they play against the Nets, and that's what happened here. I don't think either of them are must-roster guys, while Pascal Siakam, after the last game he played where he was the dud of the night, he bounced back. 28 and 10, 5 assists, great efficiency. He has been unbelievable. The fun guy, Kawhi Leonard.
I'm a fun guy.
26 and 9 for Kawhi, not much else there, while Kyle Lowry's end of season disappointment routine continued. 10, 5 and 4 in 33 minutes. This is almost every season of the last 5 seasons that he's been a huge letdown come fantasy playoffs for numerous different reasons. While Dan Green, with his sore thumb, couldn't replicate the heroics of last game, just the 2 points, but 3 steals and a block. That's why you want Dan Green, is for those out of position blocks and those steal numbers. You'd hope for a few threes, but that didn't happen here. For the Nets, D'Angelo had 27, 7 and 6, while Jarrett Allen hit all 6 of his shots, 12 and 9 with a block. I still think that Allen's more of a stream guy. Rowdy Rodion's Kulrix, I believe he will be a standard league player next season, while Karis LeVert had looked good until this game. 3 points on 1 of 9 shooting, 5 assists and a steal. Probably more of a stream sort of a guy, while Dinwiddie had 14, 4 and 5, and his inefficiency makes him hard to consider an absolute must-roster player at this point of the season. While Damari Carroll's minutes went down. Just the 22 for Damari, 12 and 5. An interesting deep league guy, but not much more. Disappointing loss for the Sixers against the Hawks. Another disappointing loss for the Sixers against the Hawks. 130, 122. No Joel Embiid in this one, and then they lost Jim Ennis during the game. Benny Simmons had 15, 15 and 8 with 4 steals, and that percentage hit is really, really bad in both categories. That's 2 games in a row where his field goal percentage has been terrible. Toby Harris benefiting from the Embiid usage bump, 21 and 7, while JJ Redick knocked in 30 points with 6 triples. We know what he does. Jonah Bolden went to the locker room early with a blood nose, came back, had 13 and 10 with 2 steals and a block. While ever Embiid's out, and that might end tomorrow, he could be back for Thursday. Bolden has some at least 14 team league value, while Jimmy Butler, general soreness, he returned 5 of 10 from the line's a killer, but 16 and 7 is decent enough production. For the Hawks, Trey Young was excellent, 33, 7 and 12, while the Baptist John Collins returned after his rest, 25 and 8 with 2 blocks. Again, those blocks, remember when he couldn't block a shot or get a steal? Now they're coming every single game. DeAndre Bembry, excellent, 17, 6 and 4, but not predictable. While Kent Bazemore, I talked about him in the waiver wire line of the night yesterday, about how shitful he'd been. He was back to being shitful. 4 points in 20 minutes, not a guy to rely upon. Alex Len, only the 14 minutes. He came into this one probable with a lower leg injury and then had 4 fouls, so that limited his playing time. While Justin Anderson moved back to the bench with Torian Prince returning. Deontay Davis, 4 deeper leagues, 6 boards and 2 blocks in this one. He can be, I think he's going to be a regular rotation player for the rest of the season, so he can be of use in some of those formats. The Charlotte Hornets and the New Orleans Pelicans. The Hornets still clinging to get into that playoff spot. It's not haven't been eliminated, but they're not far off. 115-109. Kemba had 32 with 7 assists and 2 steals. The Bacon train is done. 22 minutes for Dwayne Bacon. 8 points in his 22 minutes. He's a pretty clear drop. While Miles Bridges, nice defensive numbers, 2 steals and 2 blocks. I would clearly hold Bridges over Bacon. While Devontae Graham's the one that stepped it up here. 13, 2 and 5. And deep league guy, I don't think Tone Parker's playing again this year. Neither is Nick Batum, in my opinion. While Bill Hernan-Gomez had been crushing it, he wasn't crushing it here. Only 15 minutes, 7 rebounds, while Frank the Tank played 28 minutes and scored 21 points. That's a departure from what the Hornets have been doing in recent times. So I'm not fully buying into that. Frank's just a deep league point streamer, while Bill has more well-rounded production. Jeremy Lamb played through his ankle problem. Played 30 minutes, had 3 steals, shot poorly. I think he's fine for 12s, but I wouldn't label him as a must-hold or a must-roster guy. For the Pelicans, Anthony Davis for the 3rd consecutive game went from probable to out. I don't think he's playing again this season. That meant that we got Jolly Okafor starting, 8 and 7 with 2 blocks, and Christian Wood, finally a shit game from Woody, 8 and 9 in 21 minutes from Wood. I still think that he is a 12-team hold. Randall had 34 and 11, good from him, while Kenrick Williams filled it up. Just the 9 points, but 3 triples, 2 steals, and a block. That's what he does. Interesting, deeper league sort of a guy. Ian Clark also finally had a good scoring night, replacing Frank Jackson, 17 points for him in his 32 minutes. But when Jackson returns, if Jackson returns, Clark's value disappears pretty quickly. The Minnesota Timberwolves and the Dallas Mavericks. The Wolves win 110-108. Townsy, 28 and 13 with 3 blocks, was excellent. Wigo, inefficient but strong, and the 6 of 6 from the line from Wiggins is huge. 19, 3 and 7, while Tyus Jones was good again. 15 points with 6 assists. Josh Okogie's value has really dipped. Not a 12, probably not a 14-team league guy either. 9 points for Okogie. Well, it was one of Šarić's better games, and when one of your better games is 14, 5 and 3 on 36% shooting, it should indicate to you that he is just a 14, probably just a 16-team league player. For the Mavericks, Dwight Powell, whose minutes had been down the last couple, they were sky high here. 31 minutes, 25 and 8 with 2 steals and a block. While Doncic returned from his knee issue, 27, 12 and 6, 52% shooting, looked excellent. Trey Burke also providing some deep league value. The burner, Jalen Brunson, lost a ton of value here, 9, 3 and 3. Probably more of a stream guy at this point. Well, Justin Jackson, you get the picture with this guy. 9 points in 32 minutes. He's just as likely to have 25 points on 6 shots next game and then go scoreless the game after that. That is the Justin Jackson experience. And he had 5 assists, which without me looking, actually I probably should look at that. That feels like it's a career high for Justin Jackson. But he is going to hurt you in field goal percentage. He's going to have big games, which makes him look appealing. But for now, he is just a deeper league sort of a player. Not much more than that. I'm just going to scan through and see what I can see for you. He's a career high in assists. He definitely hasn't had 5 assists in a game this season. Let's have a look back to last season. We might have to send a big congratulations out to Justin. Yeah, that is a career high in assists for Justin Jackson of the Dallas Mavericks. The next game we take a look at the San Antonio Spurs and the Denver Nuggets. A massive win for the Nuggets, 113-85. The Spurs made another change to their starting lineup. Jakob Poeltl replaced Rudy Gay. That just seems to change every 2 games or so. 17 minutes for Poeltl with 2 blocks. That's what he is. He's a blocks streamer. While Gay only the 20 minutes on a back-to-back. That was sort of to be expected, but the poor shooting didn't help. 23% for 9 points. For Gay, definitely a stream guy. While Derek White, only 18 minutes, 5 points. I thought he'd turn the corner, but really limited minutes in a blowout. This is something that Popovich, and then of course he was ejected, so Messina was really just limiting everyone's minutes when this game was out of hand. So don't read too much into this from either side, really. Jokic bounced back, 9 of 10 shooting, 20, 11, and 9, while the Blue Arrow had 14, 6, and 11. Jamal Murray. Malik Beasley and Monty Morris both had 19 points, but as I said, a real blowout. Or Gaz Harrison, Fart, and Will Barton only put in 11 each. I think both of those guys, as I've said a million times, plus Paul Millsap, are probably stream guys in 12-team leagues at this point. All right, the next game we look at, the Memphis Grizzlies and the Portland Trail Blazers. The Blazers with a huge victory, 116-89. No Jonas Valanciunas, of course, for Memphis, so Ivan Rabb moved into the starting lineup. Joakim Noah was not available. I'm not sure that we're going to see Noah again this season. Rabb was okay, 13 and 10 with 2 steals and a block in 31 minutes. That's solid enough to be at least considered on the periphery of a 12-team league, but not a must-roster guy. While, curiously, Bruno Caboclo, who'd been playing well, playing big minutes, moved to the bench and played only 20 minutes. 11 and 3, still had his 3 blocks, while Julian Washburn started. 25 minutes for Washburn, 5 points with a 1-1. I'd be inclined to hold Bruno, but he's not that game changer sort of a guy that if you do have him, that you have to, oh man, he'll be back at 30 minutes and really killing it next game. There's obviously a lot of flux in how Memphis is doing things. Chandler Parsons also looked pretty good, 16 points in his 25 minutes, and that impacted Bruno's playing time. Justin Holiday had 11 in 30 minutes, while Delon Wright in place of Mike Conley, 11, 4, and 6 with 2 blocks. I believe that Wright is a 12-team league guy, while Tyler Dorsey. We're seeing these guys who put up these interesting performances. Dorsey, Dwayne Bacon in Charlotte, Justin Jackson's done it before, who really aren't good NBA players and aren't good fantasy guys, and we're seeing that really start to drop back down now over these last couple of games, just to show the sort of players that they overall are. And that does tend to happen in majority of cases. For the Blazers, Evan Turner had his 2nd consecutive triple-double, 13, 12, and 11 in 28 minutes. He has really stepped up the last 2 games without CJ. Now, CJ looks like he might be back on the court with 1 or 2 games left in the regular season. No need to hold our breath on that, though. So Turner can be at least a 14-team league sort of a guy. Jake Layman's value has really, really fallen. And Seth Curry, not his best night. 6 points in 24 minutes for Seth, who'd really been crushing it. If you need to make a move, you can consider his roster spot expendable. Cantor was great, 21 and 15 with 3 steals, while Zach Collins also chimed in. 70% shooting, 18 and 6. I like Collins as a 14-team league guy. Flaming Mo Harkless also looked good. 11, 3, and 3 with 4 steals and a block. He had struggled since Nurkic went out, but good to see him push that back up. I'd prefer him over the Chief Al-Farouq Aminu.
Sometimes it may be good, sometimes it may be shit.
Who played only 18 minutes here, 7 points for Amino in those 18 minutes. He's just a deeper league guy. While Rocket Rodney Hood, this is what we expect from Hood, 30 minutes, 9 points. Now, he played well in his first start last game, and the consistency is just never there with that guy, and we saw it exactly play out that way in this one. Next up, we go to the Utah Jazz. They beat the Phoenix Suns 118-97. The Jazz were without Jay Crowder, ravishing Rick Rubio, Kyle Korver, and Derek Favors, so quite a different rotation. We had Royce O'Neal move into the starting lineup, as well as Tabo Cephalosha. Now, Tabo got into some early foul trouble, and that limited him to just 23 minutes. He did absolutely nothing in that time. He's more of a steals streamer, while O'Neal had just the 2 points in his 33 minutes. Not a great night for either of those guys. Jingle Joe was great, 27, 5, and 8. Gobert had 17 and 13 with 5 blocks, while the Donovan Mitchell, 29, 5, and 6.
He's Don. He's good.
And my theory, again, no point guard, him playing point guard, 7 free throw attempts, and he hit all 7 of them. That is, to me, and that's just my opinion, but to me, that is going to be a big deciding factor for where Donovan Mitchell should be drafted next season. That free throw rate is all important. George Niang also looked pretty solid. So for deeper leagues, if Favors and Crowder remain out, Niang's interesting. 27 minutes, 11 points with 3 triples and a steal. He can fill it up right across the box score for, say, 16 or 18 team league roto leagues. He might be interesting in that scenario. While Grayson Allen pressed into extra minutes with all those injuries, 14 points in 19 minutes for Grayson. For the Suns, Rashawn Holmes didn't get into foul trouble, so 16 and 9 is great on 50% shooting, while Ali Okobo had 15 points in his second consecutive start, with Devin Booker likely done for the year. Okobo becomes a deeper league ad, as does Jimmer Fredette for very deep leagues. 10 points in 22 minutes for Jimmer. Troy Daniels played 31 minutes. He's like a 16-team league ad. And Josh Jackson, despite a really subpar performance here, which is something we talked about when he got the young gun of the night a couple of games ago, the inconsistency. Well, a big opportunity for Jackson here. 12 points on 14 shots with no blocks and 1 steal. This is the problem with Joshy, but the opportunity is there for him to have a big last week of the year. So I think he is a 12-team league ad. I think McCall Bridges also has a bigger opportunity. 9 points in 35 minutes for McCall with 2 steals there. And D'Anthony Melton also played 5, 2, and 5 with a steal and a block. He will absorb some of Booker's minutes too. So looking for defensive stats streaming, Melton could be a guy. We know he can be an interesting point guard blocks guy and get steals at a pretty high rate as well. All right, the last game of the night, the Houston Rockets and the LA Clippers, another blowout. The Rockets win 135-103, so limited minutes right across the board. Just 27 minutes for Chris Paul, 29, 4, and 7. Jimmy Harden, 31, 7, and 7 on 60% shooting. Clint Capella had 24 and 15 as well. Dan House, also pretty strong, 13, 6, and 3 for Housey with 3 triples. Really good shooting from House. He's more of that 16-team league type of streamer. Eric Gordon's more of a stream 12-team league guy as well. Well, Kenneth Faried played in both ends of the back-to-back. He wasn't supposed to initially, but he had 5 points in 17 minutes. He played a little bit of power forward in this one as well, but he is not a guy that you look at outside of the very, very deep leagues. For the Clippers, Pat Beverly was out, so Garrett Temple made the start. 5 points in 17 minutes for Temple. He's not a fantasy option anywhere. While Shai Gilgeous-Alexander looked great again. 20 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2 steals. Probably should be on a 12-team league roster, assuming it makes sense with games required and streaming purposes, all that sort of stuff. Landry Shamet, 11, 4, and 4, solid enough. While the Rooster, the Italian cock, Danilo Gallinari, only 24 minutes in this blowout. Same with Lou Williams, who played 23 minutes and shot poorly, including a very, very weird 7 of 11 from the line for Lou Williams. Just a poor game overall. Minutes were limited for most of these players. Weird guys getting into the rotation that we don't normally see there as well. Let's look ahead now to Thursday. Only 3 games on Thursday, so really huge streaming possibilities on this day. These are the sort of days you've really got to make use of. Only one more day left like this, and that's on Saturday, because then after that, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, all double digits in terms of games played. So these are your real streaming days coming here. The Milwaukee Bucks taking on the Philadelphia 76ers. Chris Middleton is probable after missing last game for Milwaukee, same as Ersan Ilyasova. For Philadelphia, Joel Embiid's missed the last 3 games, managing his load. He could be back in this one. We don't know that for sure. While James Ennis left today's game for the Sixers with that quad issue, I would have to assume that Ennis misses. That boosts the value for Timothy John McConnell. It boosts the value for Johnny Simmons as well, but they're not really going to be massive options. You could look at McConnell as a steals streamer, and of course if Embiid is out, you're looking at Jonah Bolden pretty closely. Injury-wise for Cleveland and Sacramento, Matty Dellavedova and Kevin Love are both out, so we're going to get that deep league Marquise Chris value. Larry Nance is obviously a really strong one for Cleveland. Brandon Knight becomes an interesting stream option in this one. David Nwaba, Chetty Osman, if he's available, a lot of value in those guys. And then for the last game, the Warriors and the Lakers. Andy Bogut and Sean Livingston are both out for the Warriors. Boogie will play, and then he will sit on Friday. While for the Lakers, Kyle Kuzma and Tyson Chandler are both questionable. Now, if the future MVP, Kyle Kuzma, sits out, Flaming Mo Wagner's the guy who's going to step up. Johnny Williams for deeper leagues would be someone to pay some attention to there as well. I don't anticipate Chandler or Kuzma, to be honest, playing in this game at all. So let's have a look at which guys we can pay some attention to in terms of streaming each separate category. Caldwell Pope is probably the number 1 points guy that's out there. I'd be looking at him pretty closely. Chetty Osman, Brandon Knight, Tristan Thompson can even help in points. Big sexy Alex Caruso can be an option there. Lance Stevenson, Reggie Bullock's been playing well, same as Paddy Connaughton. All those guys can be stream options for that points categories. For triples, you look at KCP as probably the number 1 guy there. Bullock, Knight, Lance Stevenson's hitting some threes recently. Prison Mike Scott could see some extra minutes as well, especially if Embiid is sidelined. Paddy Connaughton and Sterlo Brown putting in some pretty solid performances of late. Sterling, and I imagine he will start this game for the Bucks also. If you're looking to stream in rebounding, Tristan Thompson and Nemanja Bjelica are probably the top 2 options there. Prison Mike and Paddy Connaughton can help. Lance Stevenson, Sterling Brown, Costa Koufos with Harry Giles out for the season is an option. Same as Ilyasova and Johnny Williams for the Lakers. We're looking for some assists at this point in the season, looking at guys who are rostered in 60% of fewer leagues. Big sexy Alex Caruso, Andre Iguodala, that's a little bit risky, but I think he'll play. Lance Stevenson, Paddy Connaughton, Brandon Knight, TJ McConnell especially is an interesting assist stream. For steals, we're looking at Alex Caruso there as well, KCP. If Rondo's available, you add him. Lance Stevenson, George Hill, Corey Brewer, Iguodala, Connaughton, McConnell. Quite a few options around. David Nwaba, another steals guy who could have value for you. Blocks, we're looking at not a huge amount of block options around. Bjelica, he blocks some shots. Iguodala, John Williams for the Lakers, especially if Kuzma's out. Costa Koufos, Connaughton, Boban, Jonah Bolden, and Alex Caruso is a decent shot blocking guard, but there's not that many big bulk shot blockers available on this slate. For the field goal percentage boosters, you're looking at Boban, Ante Žižić, Kevon Looney, Costa Koufos, Jordan Bell, maybe, depending if he gets in the rotation. Andre Iguodala is not a terrible field goal percentage guy. He might be worth a look if you're getting desperate. And then for free throw percentage, very few options here. KCP, pretty clear must-stream guy. Brandon Knight, Source Castillo, Nick Stauskas is an option. Reggie Bullock, Georgie Hill can help you there as well. Ilyasova and maybe Yogi Ferrell to round things out. Make sure you guys are subscribing to this podcast on the new Himalaya podcast app. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and on Spotify, and follow me on Twitter at redrock_bball. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya. John Henson.